Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about software developers who refuse to write unit tests. So let's get into it. Uh, so the question in question was, Frederick, how likely are you to hire a software developer that refuses to write unit tests on the basis that he or she knows how to code? 0. And I don't think there's a single company in the world, well, maybe something somewhere, but like this is not. It looks like it's non-optional. It's like a doctor saying that, or a surgeon saying that I'm only gonna work for you if I don't have to wash my hands before operation. It's like, yeah, okay, cool. Go and live somewhere, or go and work somewhere else, or ideally start become. You can start farming, because even the farmers perhaps wash their hands at some point, I suspect. And for us software developers, like saying that you're not going to write unit tests is equivalent to that. It's like saying that I'm going to be a Formula One driver without using using a Formula One car. I'm going to sit there in a go-kart or something. It's something that is so outlandishly stupid to say, or to have a stance on, that if you have that stance, it's like it's not something that someone would even find cute or a little bit, oh, okay, he's special or something. It's like you are incompetent, or like completely unhireable if you have something like that, or you have that stance and people are aware of it. It's non-optional for you to know this. The thing that is, I think, very funny about it is that for most software developers, I like to make this analogy where I say doing test-driven development as an example. When people ask you, are you doing test-driven development, most people who are non-technical who ask about TDD by the by usually don't make a distinction between unit testing and TDD. They think it's the same thing. So when you ask someone, oh, do you do TDD or something like that, I like to say that it's like brushing your teeth. When your dentist asks you, are you brushing your teeth every night, etc., etc., and you go, yes, of course, yeah, sure you are. And that's why your teeth, you're there for, with a few holes or cavities and stuff like that, right? So it's a similar sort of thing, I think, when it comes to test-driven development or unit testing in general. It's a rule that you do it. It's a rule that you should know about it. It's like this completely, it's PC culture. It's all like, if you're not with the times, if you don't understand what the zeitgeist or whatever they call it is, what the popular opinion is, and you say something different and against whoever is in power at the time, whatever social trends we have, then you're an outcast, basically. And this is exactly one of those things where actually I've been in conversation. I have talked to many companies who say that they're all about testing and they they really care about it, and then I go and actually pull the project on my first day and realize that, hey, they don't even do coverage checking or anything like that. They have no there's like 50 tests or like something like that to a code base of several thousand lines of code. There's no way, if I run it, it's like less than 20% coverage. In some cases, like the other product I was on, it's a 1% coverage. Yep, they're doing testing. This is correct. Just as, when your teeth are falling out of your mouth, you are brushing your teeth. It's just that you do it on Christmas, right? And so to having this stance, I very much urge you to never, ever, 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 ever think in terms of, oh, I should not be forced to do this thing because I'm a software developer and I already know this other thing. I tell people, and I keep on telling them, especially the front-end developers who are, like, I don't even want to call them front-end developers, because I keep on hearing this, and it's so funny to me, because I was talking to my coworker the other day about that, where I said, you remember, because we were working on our deployment pipeline. So I am right now, my title I think is still front-end developer or something like that. His is definitely, I think his title is much fancier. He's a senior front-end developer, if I remember. And so we were working, and so part of our pipeline had gone down because I asked him to refactor our system into a Yarn Workspaces setup so that we could scale our, because we're going to get more projects into our front end code base. It is like a React code base. It's all front end, and he had never done any of the stuff with workspaces or anything like that. And he had never built a Docker container, which is something that is a prerequisite for him to actually do the thing that I'm asking him to do, which is well within what a front-end developer has to be able to do, because we don't have a back-end team. We're like, this is just us. We're all JavaScript people, we're all front-end people, but we don't have people who are going to come and help us and like explain to us how Docker works, so we have to learn it, because it's a prerequisite for us to be able to ship the code. And that is the thing that I keep on telling people. Shipping the code is what matters. What you think your job is irrelevant. What is important is that you can get the job done, because if you cannot get it done, you only have one or two options. Either you learn it, or you get fired for being incompetent, or like, someone else has to do it for you, etc., etc. And it really comes down to that problem. And so I told him, I said to him, where he was struggling with this thing, and I said, do you remember those times when you were learning how to be a front-end developer? You remember when people were telling you that it's all about the UI? Do you feel like it's all about the UI now? And he's just laughing. Yeah, no, and then he told me his story. He's like, yeah, I started like with WordPress, and after I learned WordPress, they told me now you have to learn, he started with HTML, JavaScript, and so forth, and then they told me at my first job I have to learn WordPress now, and then I learned WordPress, and then they say, oh, but now you need to learn a database because that is what the customer like. And then I learned the database, and I go, exactly. So calling yourself back-end engineer, front-end engineer, you can call yourself whatever the fuck you want. The tools of the trade are what dictates what your responsibility is, in combination with what the expectations of the company is. And it really is down to that. You will find, as I've said this to you guys before, you will find that before your career is over, you're going to start as something. You're going to have some type of silly little title that means something vague like front-end developer or back-end developer or SRE. Or if you want to get really fluffy, let's get into DevOps and site reliability engineering, where it's almost to the point where it's hard to figure out what the fuck you're supposed to know, because it's such a range of things that you could have to know, that it's insane. And you will find that those titles, they mean less and less and less until you reach a point where you're just that guy who knows everything about everything. That's the end state. I can promise you that much. So what I want you to take away from this is that, zero, less than zero. I think that in some cultures it's illegal to say this thing, and you might get shot on the spot in modern day society. If you have the idea that you're not going to do any unit testing, and you say that openly, you're never going to get hired. Because one part of it, like you know how to code. Nobody is questioning that you know how to code. Well, the problem is that if you know how to code, or you write a bunch of bad code, and you have no tests for that code, how is anybody else going to know if you did it right? And how are we going to sustain the code base over a long period of time? That's why testing is there. And the fact that you don't understand that is an indication of, as the thing that I like to say, you think that you are smarter than you are. Unit test isn't something that we talk. I mean, some people are truly ignorant and just write tests for the sake of writing tests, and I've worked with people like that as well, who like treat testing as some type of holy grail of how to solve all their problems. And then what they do is they write a unit test for a Pojo or like a Java object where a getter gets value, and then there's a test to make sure that you get that value. It's like a completely pointless test. Well, not completely, but it's not a very valuable test. That's not what's interesting. What is interesting is that super regex that is like basically like a small portion of the arcane Bible. That thing that no human could possibly read and understand what it does. It's untested, and it does this very important thing that is critical to our entire system. Well, let's just hope that changing it doesn't affect anything in a bad way. Have a great day.